The Bible does not have fixed rules and commandments. For example, the Sabbath was part of the Ten Commandments, but that didn't stop the early church from observing Sunday as the Lord's Day. Of course, God is not human that he should change his mind, as Samuel, the first of the great Israelite prophets, pointed out. And yet commandments, crimes, punishments, and dress codes changed through the Old Testament, and even more in the New Testament. I don't think God changes his mind. His purposes are constant and unchanging, but in order to achieve them, he has to impose different rules. If we want to find ethical guidance in the Bible, we can't fixate on the rules of one time or another. We need to discover the eternal purposes of God and consider how to achieve those. The Bible contains many laws that we now regard as unethical. Persistent drunks should be stoned. A poor Jew who can't repay a debt should enslave himself. A childless widow should marry her brother-in-law even if he already has a wife, in order to have a son. In the Old Testament, the death penalty applied to many crimes that we would now regard as merely warranting imprisonment. However, imprisonment was impossible in a community that lived in tents and later in farm shacks. Even stone walls were easy to dig through before the invention of hard-setting mortar, so there was nowhere to lock people up securely. The Jews knew that some laws changed with time. For example, the law against shopping on the Sabbath wasn't introduced until the time of Nehemiah, so the law of God wasn't changeless. By the time of Jesus, the Jews had found ways to avoid most executions. So when the Pharisees charged Jesus with drunkenness, using the wording of the capital offence, they didn't call for the death penalty. Israelite law regarded life as precious, especially in comparison to other nations. The law of Moses punished criminal injury with an eye for an eye, all the way up to life for life. However, the victim or her family could ask for financial compensation instead. And I guess that most people opted for this because it benefited them. In surrounding nations, the punishment depended on who you had injured. Physical punishment was compulsory if you injured one of the nobility, but if you injured an ordinary person, the punishment was merely a fine. While the law of Moses had the same punishment whomever you had injured, because everyone was equally precious. The law changed somewhat within the Old Testament, but Jesus and the early Christians changed the laws of the Old Testament much more. Jesus ruled out polygamy, which the Old Testament allowed and even encouraged for a childless widow. Paul abrogated the law of the childless widow itself, saying she could marry whomever she wanted. The value of laws in the Old and New Testament lies in their message about God's purposes, which are eternal. Through these laws, God taught Israel that people, all people, were supremely valuable. When you harvested your field, it was compulsory to leave something for the hungry poor. If you injured anyone, you were liable to severe punishment, even if that person was a slave or an unborn baby. God's principles are unchangeable. He wants people to have a day of rest, Saturday or Sunday or both. The exact rule doesn't matter. The details of God's law changed when society and circumstances changed. But the unchangeable nature of God's law lies in the underlying principles and purposes. The greatest principle is that the most valuable things on earth are people, not commodities. This is an unchanging ethical principle of the Bible. God supremely loves and values people, and his law teaches every generation to do the same by framing laws that accomplish this. God bless.